Thank writers and books for this opportunity to read my poems for an Earth Day celebration. It's Earth Day 2020. And the first poem is a water poem, and it is called She Drinks from the Mouths of Rivers. Muse lives in the rhythms of open spaces. She gives to those who listen well. She came to me today, barefoot, earnest, verbose. She sang in tongues about wildness and wisdom, about courage and memory and truth. I did not rein her in, knowing if I did, she would leave me. She lives near source, drinks from the mouths of rivers. Her songs are abundant, everywhere, in me and in you. She needs a spacious ear, will hide from those who try to harm her. She is a wanderer, weary of rules. She despises small, tight shoes. And the next one is also a water poem. It's called Incubation. One early morning, I went to the river where the water lapped quietly beneath the moon, where a teal sat on her nest of twigs and down in grass. I had an idea for a poem and placed it beneath her feathers, and she began to warm it, never asking me why or how or when. Quietly, we sat in the round pebbled light of stars, and my poem, like an embryo, began to shape itself while morning unfurled around us. When the sky grew pink, I thanked the teal, carried my poem into the light, cupping it in my hands, following the sounds of insects, feeling my poem's bones and skull silently forming. I passed an old spruce, with branches swaying, the scent of sap circled around my head, and my poem began to speak, softly. A babble, a murmur, a whisper. It spoke to the water, to me, to the sky. Spoke of swimming and gliding and shining. I opened my fingers wider, and its speech grew louder around her, its rhythm ancient and velvety. Patiently I waited through dusk and night, listening until morning rose again. Then I opened my hands and watched it take to the sky in a certain flapping flight. This is called Bay of Fundy, and my husband and I like to go up to Maine in the summer, and I wrote a poem about Campobello Island. We were on Campobello Island, where winds rattle windows and slam doors shut, where beaches are filled with stones, millions of years in the making, folded, squeezed, transformed by time. I'm looking for a black and white stone to use as a doorstop, I told my son, who was at my side. A stone to keep doors open. My voice rose like a song about the churning Campobello waves. We came upon a plover waiting on stilt legs, miles to go, fishing her August way south. And when we veered away so she could eat, I spied the gem I had been searching for. Two-toned, perfectly formed, black like a whale's wet skin, white like an eagle's curved crown, round and heavy, smooth by tides, a doorstop to keep doors open. We are like stones, rising, falling, transformed by tides, and like plover briefly here, fishing. And some days I am a door blown shut, as if Neptune's winds had stolen me away. In other days I am a door wide open, shouting above the wind, singing to the sea. And up in Maine, when we go, I've enjoyed watching the whales from shore, and this poem is called North Atlantic Right Whale. As of 2019, 450 North Atlantic right whales still remain. They're endangered, and many are found dead, tangled in fishing nets. North Atlantic right whale. I will never forget the sound of the right whale that I heard several years ago off a North New Brunswick coast. A whale whose joyful spouting was an affirmation of earth and water and all that was good in the brilliant summer day. It was a gift to be near such greatness. Meditation. Inaction in free will, in the dazzling light of sky, in a puddle, in the desert parched dry, in Einstein and Hawking, karma, fate, and chance, in truth, the muse resides. In the fenced and unfenced, time and timeless, black, brown, white, Mount Parnassus, Death Valley, Buddha, Allah, and Christ, in the pulse of the tide, in sweetness and brine, in an infinite song and infinite mind, in our breasts, the muse resides. My father, this is a land poem now, and my father came down with polio before I was born, and the silver lining to that is he recovered and loved mountain climbing, and that was his way of conquering the illness. This is called Polio. When my father came down with polio, he blamed it on the dirty barn he had helped tear down hours before fever sent him tumbling into fiery dreams, where like a bewildered soldier he joined front lines filled with children who only days before had played at dusk in summertime yards, hopping like insects through tall grass, never guessing their games would soon be over, never guessing they would wake without wings, their legs strangely withered. His fever gone, my father woke under cover, not far from where the old barn had been. Luckier than most, he climbed up out of the wreckage, his only scars, a weakness in one leg and a bothersome limp which he would forever try to conquer, bringing me as a child up hundreds of mountain paths that meandered through dreamy forests, wound slowly up onto bald-faced summits where the wind whipped at our faces and the word polio is not spoken. This poem is, I wrote it for a road-killed deer that I saw one day on the side of the road. Deer crossing. Under a deer crossing sign, her head lifted as if to find the creature hurled against her, her pool of blood the color of wild roses that grow along the riverside, red-streaked sky, seen last night from beneath a hemlock tree, near moss and fallen leaves, her mind filling with dreams of cool, clear mornings when she walked with her young to find the early shoots beneath the ground, the tender twigs, and Walnut Grove with scented leaves now gone. Walked with them each day near this asphalt strip where she now lay, small hooves, quick and light. But why the drumming roar, like droning wind before a storm? And what had happened to the music she had known, long ago, herself unborn, curled against a gentle beating heart? And this one I will read in honor of Norm Davis, who recently passed away. It was published in Hazmat Review, which he owned. It's called The Plot Against the Forest. The rainforest is a lexicon, a poet dressed in green, a giant filled with ancient words that filter through the leaves, that filter through the milky shade like ancient memory. But crouched beneath a rubber tree, a poacher sits and schemes of ways to tie the giant up and spill the poet's blood, to make the forest mute and dumb, turn to road and mud. This one is called Ancient Luna, and it's for Julia Butterfly Hill, who lived in the branches of a California redwood tree for over a year to save it from loggers. It spoke a language without words, ancient redwood she called Luna, a language that she heard in the thousand rings beneath her feet, in its bending sway and its golden sap that flowed through years of wind and rain, through icy storms and fire's pain. As she climbed through summit's steepled branches and felt its furrowed bark beneath her heels, she found in silver scars its soul and hers together, the breasts entwined, as Luna held her like sister, mother, lover. This one is called A Country Without Passenger Pigeons. Audubon, this moment is to remember the passenger pigeon, whose tremendous flocks took hours to pass through your autumn skies, and though you did not think it possible to diminish them by mere hunting, it seems important to remember the many men with guns who waited at dusk for the pigeons to arrive, bringing thousands of pigs to be fattened deep into the forests, where live decoy pigeons were propped in trees, eyes sewn shut, where nesting sites were desecrated so young birds fell to the ground like pelting rain, to be eaten and eaten and eaten in New York and Philadelphia, where markets brimmed with millions of birds down by bark peelers and tavern owners and cooks who had abandoned their jobs to follow them into the forests of Kentucky and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, into the dreamy old growth forests where their scarlet eyes blinked like a galaxy of stars, and their slate blue feathers covered the branches like a multitude of leaves, weighing down the trees because passenger pigeons needed huge flocks to sustain themselves, weighing down the hickories and oaks because their souls needed large forests to thrive. Audubon, how strange if you could see our Kentucky woods, now ghosts of what they were, and how strange if you could see our springtime skies without passenger pigeons heading north in synchronized flocks, so graceful and large they would startle even the greatest imagination. And I got most of that information from Audubon journals, his journals. Farm sanctuary. My husband and I like to hike at Chimney Bluffs in the Sodas Point area, and there's a farm sanctuary called Crackerbox Palace, and I wrote this poem after visiting it. We walk the spacious grounds, the sun is bright, the pastures ablaze of blue and red and green. A chestnut-colored mare stomps her foot nervously as if remembering a starting gate. She was once a racehorse, is now protected at the farm sanctuary, whose grounds were once part of the Underground Railroad. The early abolitionists knew that empathy and good action determines the direction the world takes. Today, those who seek equality for every living thing will move the world forward. The mare can no longer race. The sanctuary has a no-kill policy. Thank you. Like a newborn. Let me walk along the curves of creeks and paths of yellow sorrow, walk through mottled shade on stones worn smooth, not knowing of tomorrow, through new spring air and wordless speech, through bluegrass overgrown, where tiny flowers tucked beneath brush softly, softly at my feet. Surround me like a gentle rain, sing softly once again, and do not call me back too soon from milky sky, from rising wind, from tiny tendrils near my skin. This place so faint, yet warm and near, has put dreaming in my ear. And last summer, I raised monarch butterflies, and I wrote a few poems for them while doing this. And the caterpillars, when you first see them, they are so tiny, about the size of a staple or smaller, and they eat a tremendous amount of milkweed. This one's called To a Monarch Caterpillar. When I first saw you, you were so tiny, I thought you were insignificant. So little I knew about your monarch soul, so deaf I was to your dreamy imaginings, spun in the shadows of tree, Lepidoptera. Beneath my window, you were a believer in possibility, sketching words in the leaves, part of a letter about Earth. It was summertime. You were a lover of milkweed. Your songs were not bitter. You knew you were no stranger here. It was I who knew so little about the poetry of your soul, making me wonder what else exists in front of me, riddles to be unlocked, beauty and wisdom like yours that I must learn to see. A monarch caterpillar makes a chrysalis. You created a small silk button on the ceiling of a hidden place, then a black thread stem to anchor you through winds. Diligently you worked, quietly like a song sung in pianissimo. The task took time, seemed endless, yet you were no Sisyphus, designed to repeat the old. You looked to the future. Your dream was huge. You believed in transformation, trusting that each moment was a golden step closer to becoming all that you were meant to be. The world is wide. You know where you are meant to go. Wrapped in green and gold, you dreamed of flight while you grow wings. Releasing the monarch butterfly. Several weeks after I brought the tiny caterpillar inside, the chrysalis splits open. The butterfly's wings unfolds. It pumps them until they dry. The day is warm, the sky a dazzling blue. I bring the screen container outside and open the door. Wish, it flits out into the wide summer air. It belongs to the flowers, to the breeze, to the sun, to August, and to migration. It flutters across my yard and out of sight. And I will finish my reading with an Earth Day poem called Planting a Tree on Earth Day. A cherry tree. I find the perfect spot in my yard, a sunny spot where it will flourish. As I plant the tree, I hear the sounds of the earth. Imagine the sounds of meadows and forests and mountains, of oceans, lakes, and streams. I imagine the sounds of those before me and those to come, all of them like a chorus, one voice that begs us to listen. Remember the spirit that lives in wild places, for it will vanish if the land is not left. Eat only from this untouched tree and rejoice in its green fragrance, and in every rustling branch see the children who have not yet come.